It doesn't matter whether it's cancer or heart disease or bowel disease or mental illness. These illnesses can all exhibit these characteristic patterns. I think we are in a state of syphilitic miasm in our world right now. Turbo cancers are exploding. Sudden deaths are everywhere. The social fabric is being ripped apart. Social, political, and financial systems are collapsing. In homeopathy, we believe like cures like. So what is the cure for a syphilitic state? It has to be something of equal power to destroy that will be deployed against that in a healing way. It's not like I'm saying it's all one or it's all the other. It's all of them all the time, but sometimes some are more prominent. It's a hopeful state. You hear it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea. No matter where you are, no matter how bad things can be, you still have hope.
He began his career in psychiatry and child psychiatry, training at the Boston Psychoanalytic Society Institute. Over time, he grew disillusioned with the limits of the biomedical model and the corruption within pharmaceutical medicine, which led him to transition into holistic care. We don't have enough of that, do we? Did you guys know that naturopaths cannot practice here in the state, the so-called free state of Florida? We tried to change that this last legislative session, and the bill died. To allow naturopathic doctors that have to go through school, have a regulatory board, but for some reason, our naturopathic doctors cannot practice under their naturopathic license here in the state of Florida. It's not okay. We got to change it. That's right. We got to change it. So since 2000, he's focused on homeopathy and his primary modality while also integrating nutrition, herbal, environmental, and energy medicine into his practice. In 2020, Dr. Brody became one of the earliest physicians in the US to publicly raise concerns about the safety of the COVID-19 vaccines, a stance that led to the suspension of his license. Choosing principle over compliance, he continued practicing under Rhode Island's Health Freedom Act, where he remains dedicated to holistic healing today. Dr. Brody is an active leader in the health freedom movement, serving in organizations such as Children's Health Defense, Physicians and Patients Reclaiming Medicine, the National Health Federation, and as director of the New England and Kentucky chapter for the World Council for Health. His commitment to truth, patient-centered medicine, and medical freedom have made him a respected voice in the growing movement to reclaim healthcare. Please enter the stage, Dr. Mark Brody.
Thank you very much, and thanks to Dr. Vila for inviting me down. I don't have a strong speaking voice, so let me know if you can't hear me. What I'm going to talk to you about is somewhat different from what the prior speakers have spoken about, and that's okay because everything they said was wrong. No. Actually, you people are very fortunate because you're probably more up to date on what's going on with the after effects of COVID than just about anybody else in this country, because you've heard the people who have the fingers on the pulse of science. And so I'd urge you all to disseminate the information you learn here to all your compatriots at the villages or wherever. And if they don't listen to you, I'd make them listen to the video of this conference. So I'm going to talk about a homeopathic approach to understanding cancer. And I'm going to use this as a springboard to understand a little bit about what's going on in the world right now. I'm going to zoom out, not in the usual zoom sense, zoom out in the bird's eye view sense, and what's going on in the world and in our culture now. And that my ideas are not endorsed by the World Council for Health. They're not endorsed by anything. They're my own ideas. I admit they could be wrong, but it's a little bit of a fantasy. I'm going to hopefully try to stimulate your thinking, and I'm going to hope to confuse you a little bit. So, because I'm going to talk about some homeopathic concepts that are going to be very foreign to you, and unfortunately I don't have the time to explain all about homeopathy. I don't want to convert anybody to homeopathy. I don't want to make you interested in it. I just want you to understand these concepts to the extent you can. There's going to be a lot of unanswered questions, but you're going to use that to understand what's going on in the world today and to understand something about cancer. I think any oncologist, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Makis, understands that there are many different types of cancer based on their different morphologic characteristics. And I've listed them here just for example. I'm not pretending to classify all cancers, but on the most basic level, barely even considered cancers, we have things like warts and skin tags, and anaplastic lesions, benign local tumors. And then it progresses to more severe types of cancers, culminating, I think, in the turbo cancers, which are probably some of the most aggressive cancers we have. So when we understand a case homeopathically, over 225 years of homeopathic clinical experience, we've come to understand that there are certain patterns that apply to illness. And some illnesses have very strong and violent symptoms. You can think of things with very high fever, or people who are violent in their nature, or things that can kill you. And some are more indolent and slowly progressing. You can live with them for years. They won't kill you, or maybe they will, but it'll take 30 years, like prostate cancer. Some illnesses come in waves, waxing and waning rhythmically or episodically, like migraine headaches. Some people make people feel desperate. Some allow people to remain hopeful and optimistic, even in the face of major disability. And I'm thinking of what I was amazed as a medical student to see paraplegics after an accident. And they seemed, oh, I'm fine, I'll be good. And I'm like, really? You just lost your strength in all your limbs. But that was their reaction to it. Some people anxiously seek out help, and other people will do anything to avoid the doctor. Let me see if I can do this. So here's a more indolent and slowly progressing Wen or lit lipoma. And here's an example of migraine headaches that everybody knows. They're mostly gone, but when they come, they hit you like a ton of bricks. Some make people desperate. You can think of people who will just come begging for whatever it might be, some pain medicine in the emergency room. Some are more of an annoyance, things like perhaps eczema or dyspepsia, things that are just annoying, but they don't tend to make you desperate or hopeless. Some people deny or hide their symptoms. They don't want anybody to know about it, maybe not even their doctor. Freud was famous for the patients would come in, lie down on the couch and say, tell me whatever comes to mind. Nothing would come to mind. He called that resistance. There's a natural tendency that some people have to hide their symptoms. Some anxiously seek help, some avoid seeking help altogether. So the founder of homeopathy, Hahnemann, who lived from like 1755 to 1843, noticed their patterns in illness, and he described them as miasms. It's also the pace, he called it the pace of illness. It's the characteristic pattern that it doesn't have to do, it doesn't matter whether it's cancer or heart disease or bowel disease or mental illness. These illnesses can all exhibit these characteristic patterns. And he identified three main ones called psora, psychosis, and syphilis. And modern homeopathy recognizes 10 modern, possibly even more miasms. And in our examination, or my examination of cancer today, we're going to look just at 6. Why 6? I couldn't figure out any correlation to the other 4. That's why. But anyway, maybe that's a flaw of my analysis, but I'll let you decide for yourselves. So a miasm refers to the pace, intensity, and characteristic features of illnesses. It's derived from the ancient concept of miasma, or a quality of the air that was considered by early doctors to be a causative factor of most illnesses. Hahnemann's concept, although it's etymologically linked, has nothing to do with the old concept of miasm. It has to do with these patterns. And the interesting thing about them is that they almost all relate to infectious diseases that were prevalent in his time, the late 18th and early 19th century. So the first miasm he called the psoric miasm. Why did he call it that? I don't know. They didn't teach us that. I don't know where that comes from, but every homeopath has to know what psoric miasm is. And psoric miasm is one of the most prevalent miasms. One of my old teachers used to joke with us that we're here to teach you how to cure psora. Can't cure psora. It's prevalent. It's everywhere. It's the itch disease. And the scabies is the paradigmatic infectious process. And the correlate in terms of cancer might be skin tags, actinic keratosis, ductal carcinoma of the breast in situ, early prostate CA, precancerous lesions. And the psychic description of this state of mind is hope and optimism. You feel like, no biggie, I'm fine. I'll get over this. Typhoid miasm is correlated to the Salmonella typhi organism and the disease of typhoid. It's a diarrheal process with a lot of prostration, sometimes high fever, and usually there's an intense battle where people feel like they're coming within a hair's breadth of losing their lives, and then they go on to recovery. And the characteristic of this type of illness, whether it's cancer or whatever, is that there's an intense struggle to overcome, but an optimism that if only you can get through this crisis, everything will be peaches and cream at the end. And that's a picture of the organism there. And the feeling is, I can do it, but boy, it's going to be hard. In some ways, that's where we are with our fight. We're in the typhoid state now of our struggle. The psychotic miasm is typified by, did I give any examples of the type of cancer? Yeah, basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, thyroid cancer, many stage 1 or stage 2 cancers. So psychotic miasm refers to the Neisseria gonorrhea organism, which causes gonorrhea and pelvic inflammatory disease. And it tends to have an affinity for urogenital kinds of problems. That means the urinary system and the genital system. The symptoms often involve large growths, but they may be disfiguring or cause embarrassment or shame, but they're usually not life-threatening. Very often they cause shame. People don't want you to know about them. Lipomas, polyps, and warts are good examples. People who tend to have this type of miasmatic presentation often feel limited in the scope of their life, what they can do, but they don't feel bothered by it. They say, I can't do that. That's all right. I'll just get used to it. But they don't like people knowing about it. They don't like talking about it. It's embarrassing. And they're not particularly hopeful of recovery, but they're not hopeless either. They're just, it is what it is. I'll live with it. Then we have the tubercular miasm, which is the paradigmatic organism is the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It's a wasting disease with pulmonary or upper respiratory problems. And this can include a lot of upper airway kinds of cancers, lung cancer, head and neck cancers. And the tubercular feeling is one of restlessness and dissatisfaction, looking for more, a desire for open air in the mountains. So these people are very restless. They tend to have wasting diseases. So many of their cancers will present with cachexia, which is the muscle wasting, but they still can be quite energetic, or that they feel like they want to do more, even though they might be very tired, typical of a tubercular patient. Then we have the cancer miasm, which there is no infectious agent for. It wasn't a part of the original Hahnemannian scheme of miasms, though some people have suggested viruses and parasites may be involved in some types of cancer. The symptoms for cancer is rapid growth, consuming the healthy tissues in the process and spreading to distant parts of the body, hence the phrase metastasis. Breast cancer, prostate cancer, and colon cancer are good examples of types of cancer that are generally found within the cancer miasm. The psychic description is that there's a feeling of intense struggle. Yeah, it's a little bit like the typhoid miasm, but the feeling isn't so much that if only I overcome this, then everything will be good. The feeling is more, it's a constant battle. No matter how good I am, I have to be better. I have to improve myself and the situation because if I don't continue to work at it relentlessly, I will be consumed by the cancer. I will die. So it's like a constant emergency. Syphilitic miasm is the last one we're going to look at. The infectious disease is Treponema pallidum, which causes syphilis. The typical lesions in syphilis are destructive, often destructive of bone or tissue, causing these large ulcers, deterioration and disintegration of the themes. It can be mental or physical deterioration. Suicidal states, schizophrenia, and bipolar are thought to be part of this manifestation. Pancreatic cancer, turbo cancers would be examples of syphilitic kinds of cancers. And the state of the syphilitic patient is often one of tremendous despair, desperation, feeling of wanting to hurt themselves or others or do damage. Okay, so now I'm going to bring you to sort of a socio-cultural understanding, which is going to try to put in some context. We'll see how successful I am in convincing you that there are correlates to this in history. And some of you may wonder, as you hear my presentation, whether you can characterize certain states so neatly. But in fact, it's more like those potholders that you used to weave when you were in summer camp. It's like they're different threads of miasmatic threads that go through history simultaneously, but just some of them are more prominent at different times. So it's not like I'm saying it's all one or it's all the other. It's all of them all the time, but sometimes some are more prominent. And I'm going to explain to you which ones I think are more prominent. I'm going to give you some examples to help you get you a flavor of what these are about. So the psoric miasm, it's something that probably was a state we were in 10,000 years ago, pre-agrarian tribal hunter-gatherer society. And here's some examples of people who are living in that type of society. And it's a hopeful state. You hear it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea. No matter where you are, no matter how bad things can be, you still have hope. You can have it even in a concentration camp. There was a movie about this guy at a concentration camp. He's trying to say talk his child into how everything's going to be okay. So it's a state of hope. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. The typhoid miasm probably is correlated, in my view, to a period of about 5,000 to 10,000 years, warring city-states, early civilization. Things like influenza, dysentery, renal colic, biliary colic are some of the examples. And a literary example is the Gettysburg Address. There's a section where he said, we are a nation that we have to come together or we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it unless we win this. This is a crisis, and the Civil War was a crisis in American history. The psychotic miasm, in my view, is a period correlating to about 2,500 to 5,000 years ago. The Akkadian, Egyptian, Persian, and Greek empires, and the general pathology is growths that are generally not metastatic. They're localized, but they're characterized by hypertrophy and hyperplasia, which means overgrowth of tissues or cells. And the literary example, oh, wait, that's the early, this is all out of sequence. Oh, there it is. The Lorax. I don't know, how many of you read the Lorax recently? The Lorax is the story of this guy who has a business plan to harvest the truffula trees, and he chops them all down one by one until they're all gone. And the Lorax is the creature that is warning against this overgrowth because it could be so destructive if it continues. And so they continue until all the trees are gone. The idea is it's just unrestricted growth. It doesn't know where to stop. Tubercular miasm, in my view, is more the far-flung empires, probably 2,500 to 200 years ago, the Mongol Empire, the Roman Empire, the Islamic Byzantine empires. And the general pathology is that it can be widely metastatic and stages 2, 3, or even 4 or 5. Miliary tuberculosis might be a good correlate of this state, even though it's not a cancer. And this is an example of the Roman Empire. I had a poem, well, not that one. Everything I got. Well, the poem was Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson, where he talks about being restless and he cannot stay in one place. He feels he has to strive and he can seek and not to yield. He's never stopping. And that's the feeling of the tubercular. I can't stop, I gotta keep going. They might be doctor shoppers. Okay, here we are, cancer miasms. So colonialism, this is the metaphor beginning maybe 400 years ago to less than 200 years ago. This is where we have widespread metastases of the mother nation to far-flung regions of the globe. And I just said cancers which tend to be widely metastatic. So it could be any cancer like that. It doesn't have to be metastasized at the time because it may be stage 1 or 2, but it has the potential to become that way, whereas other types of cancers tend not to be, like brain cancer. And Ozymandias is the poem I selected to illustrate that. And it just shows that you have this great king who imagined himself as being so powerful. And if you look around, everything is decayed and dead. It's been killed off. Okay, syphilitic miasm. Told I don't have very much time. Bone cancer, ulcerating cancers, the upcoming second coming by William Butler Yeats is my poem. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. And the breakup of the Soviet Empire and even now the US Empire is probably examples. And I have a few examples of cases, which I think I'm going to have to skip, which I use Dr. Marcus's protocol and also homeopathic remedies. I've had very good success using his protocol and the homeopathy together, and sometimes just using the homeopathy alone. I'm saying, this is what I'm going to leave you with. I think we are in a state of a syphilitic miasm in our world right now. Turbo cancers are exploding. Sudden deaths are everywhere. The social fabric is being ripped apart. Social, political, and financial systems are collapsing. Trust in systems is ebbing away. This is the theme of our times. It feels like that. Doesn't it? Desperation. Like, you know, we're going to die unless we do something. And everything, there's a sense of everything falling apart. All the systems that we knew that have been around for centuries are disintegrating. So what is it? What can be the cure? In homeopathy, we believe like cures like. So what is the cure for a syphilitic state? It has to be something of equal power to destroy that will be deployed against that in a healing way. So what I'm going to leave you with before I leave is that after the night comes the day, after the winter comes the spring, after the fire, the old growth fire dies, we get a new growth. That's what's coming next. Thank you.